Today on Talk It Out.
I always say you can't just elect a black president and call it a day. Like, this is a mindset that has to
I love
change.
that.
And just like, you know, I mean, it's not that long ago that there was like, we had Jim Crow laws in this country.
Some people believe it's something from the past, others face it every day. Let's talk it out.
Well, it definitely exists still.
Oh, yeah,
People who-
100%.
Yeah.
A lot recently.
A lot more recently. And it's crazy because some people think that, you know, it doesn't exist, or they're like, privilege doesn't exist, which don't even get me started on that one. But it definitely does, and it's all around us, even in like very subtle ways. As, you know, you see stories on the news all the time, and I think it definitely, it's there, it exists.
Yeah.
No, like, you definitely can see it, like, on a day-to-day basis, and, like, I could see it as well. So I'm half Mexican. I, like, look white. People think I'm, like, Italian. My mom is, like, the whitest person in the entire world, like, redhead, freckles, and my dad is, like, from Mexico, like, desperado bandit with, like, the mustache. So, like, that emoji with the guy with the mustache is literally my dad.
I love that.
But I see, even like when I go out with my dad and stuff, or like when we go out as a family, like my mom and I get treated differently than my father does just because of the color of his skin. And, you know, that's like very hard to see and very, I mean, I never recognized it before. My dad handles it super well, but like his skin tone is like 5 or 6 shades darker than mine is. And so it's like, what happens when like that dynamic, like that's still who I am, that's still my ethnicity, that's still my race, but like just because it doesn't show, like I get treated differently. So I see privilege like on a daily basis with my family.
Yeah, same. I mean, for me, that's like my biggest, I don't want to say pet peeve, I don't even like know the word for it, but it just gets me so frustrated because I was very close with like my housekeeper. I like considered her like my second mom, and she like was literally a part of our family, like could stay with us, eat whatever, you know, just do whatever and hang out with us. And whenever I would go out with her, she's like my best friend. I'd walk and I'd be like jumping on her and stuff. And people would just like look at us like, what are you doing? Or like they would treat her like when we'd go to a restaurant, like they'd treat her like won't really pay attention to her. They just like focus on me or whatever. They just be rude. And I would literally get so irritated. I would like leave. I'd be like, I can't, like you're so mean. Like that's just, I don't understand how people could ever do that.
I completely agree, especially coming from a country like South Africa where this is like a really big deal. It's I never really understood it, but then when you learn the history behind it, it's so sad how it happened when it's because of like history and slavery and then them not having jobs and people just associating poor people with people of a certain race. Like that's just, it's really unfortunate. But I thought that we were going in a really positive direction, and I'm like, oh, race isn't that big of a deal anymore. You get so many interracial couples these days, different friends. It's amazing, but then just the whole like these cases these days with people getting shot because of being of a dark race, like that's just, I don't know, it's really
I
sad.
feel like it's a really big deal now, like everything that's going on in the news with like all this like with all the policing and all the, like it's horrible. Like I've seen it, like for example, like I'm from downtown LA, right? So in like my high school, like we had like all these like officers there all the time because the school was like around like a gang related area or whatever. So like me and my friends would get stopped like all the time and get searched for literally nothing. And so we would tell them like, oh, where's the search warrant? And then they'll be like, oh, like you're not allowed to speak right now. Like what the hell? And so like they checked us and we have nothing, but we would still get sent to like the principal's office, but like, we have nothing on us. Like why?
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know how you can like be justified for just making that like just thinking that, like making that assumption. I just don't understand how that even like happens.
And I think the most important thing is to keep fighting for it, to keep
Yeah.
talking about it. Because I always say you can't just elect a black president and call it a day. Like this is a mindset that has to change.
That.
And just like, you know, I mean, it's not that long ago that there was like, we had Jim Crow laws in this country. It was not 50s, it wasn't that long ago. And like to have that mentality change is going to take so much longer than just changing a couple of, you know, like I said, electing a black president, it's not going to do it because every day we see people systematically disadvantaged in this country, and as long as that exists, racial profiling exists and racism exists. So.
That's true, but this is a step in the right direction, which is a good,
definitely.
because at least we know that we're going somewhere, and it's progress, which is something that's very important, I think.
We have to keep moving towards that, and you know, keep realizing that it still exists, and as long as it exists, we still have to fight for it.
That's
as long as
right.
as long as we acknowledge it first, I feel like that's already like one big step.
Exactly.
And we can't just acknowledge it. Like you said, we have to be working towards it, because if you're not working toward the problem, you're part of the problem. You're still facilitating this, like, racial barriers and stuff like that if you're not fighting against it. It's kind of like an escalator, you know, like those moving walkways. Like, you need to be, like, on the walkway going with it, walking and like actually being racist, but you actually have to turn around and walk against the current if you're going to be like fighting this issue.
And I feel like the most recent like news, you know, with the shootings and stuff, I just feel like everything in terms of that has really like escalated it and making people like really like fight for it even more. Because I feel like we fought for it and then we just kind of like laid back a little and just kind of like let it sit around. And now I feel like we're in this new time where we're really starting to like bring awareness to it. And I feel like it's really good because it's
a great time.
Yeah.
It's a great time to do it. We should all keep this conversation going because that's how we can make a change. So please help us and join us to make this change. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Eddie. We've had so much fun with you.
Thank you. It was so much fun to be here. Like, honestly, I'm so happy.
We love you.
I love you.
We should do that. Tune in next time to see another episode of Talk It Out. Bye, guys.